Thank you very much for making a date on the marketplace and welcome back. Now to our very first story. General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, GAU, Edward Karawe, wants a review of the Farmers' Day celebration declared as a public holiday. He tells Joy Business the essence of the holiday has not been benefited farmers, but rather resulted in some financial losses to the agri sector.
As a farmer, what I'll be happy about is to hear the government saying that, look, the roads that lead to the farm gates have been constructed. Look, henceforth, we have created this market for you. Henceforth, we have addressed the post-harvest losses. Henceforth, there is this fund lying there, which you can easily have access to support your farming. This is what will make farmers happy. But the day is also a holiday, and then in whose name? In the name of farmers, you grant a holiday that they do not benefit from? Because which farmer will be legislated to not to go to work tomorrow on that particular day because it is a holiday? You know, we are, if in the past it was good, I don't think today it is still good. Because even the private sector, imagine that you are a business man, you have your company and you employ 500 workers. Then because of the legislation that day, you have nothing to do with agriculture at all. And then you have to pay them on that day without them working.
So you think the whole thing should be scrapped?
No. What I'm saying is that we can have an innovation of it. One, do we necessarily need to have the holiday in order to honor farmers? No. Because the farmers that we are even honoring don't enjoy that holiday. The workers who work from Ministry of Agriculture or anybody who is linked to organizing the Farmers' Day is not going to rest on that day. What we are saying is that, yet there is a cost. So what we are saying is that we should all go to work on that day. Then part of the money that we generate that day should be put in a fund that will support agricultural production. And that will probably even address the complaint that the minister has that he has not had adequate funding to run the Farmers' Day celebration. So if he has not got adequate funding to run the Farmers' Day celebration, then it tells us that he will not have adequate funding to implement his program under the ministry. You see, and this is clear, and it's coming from the minister. No one is conjecturing it. But we can be innovative to generate money for agricultural financing and support, which will include the Farmers' Day celebration.
All right, thank you very much.
Meanwhile, 4 municipalities and districts within the Ashanti region have received support from the Atwima-Kwangoma Rural Bank for the upcoming Farmers' Day. The 4 areas which are within the bank's catchment area include Amansia West, Atwima-Kwangoma districts, as well as Kwadaso and Old Staffo municipal assemblies. Ohimin Teria reports.
The farming tools and household items will go to deserving farmers in their respective areas in recognition of their contribution to the national economy. Patrick Owusu is board chairman of Atwima-Kwangoma Rural Bank.
We have a lot of farmers as our plantains, which we help to expand their farms, maintain their farms on year-by-year basis. So once a rural bank, we are in good business with most of our farmers. We know without them, there will be no food. Without food, nobody can go about his normal duty. You know, it is a very serious or difficult enterprise to be a farmer in Ghana because of the substance nature of it. So we have to do everything possible to encourage those who are in agribusiness to do it and do it big time, so that the government agenda, agriculture agenda, food for planting for food and jobs will be successful. So
Kwadaso Municipal Director of Agriculture, John Ankoma Kurantin, spoke for all the beneficiary institutions.
Farmers are such that they are, when they are given awards, it really boosts them. It brings competition to other farmers who look onto those farmers who are awarded. And when they see that, they also try and then intensify the work that they're doing. So it is really going to bring competition among farmers, and then it will also at least raise their standard of living to when they receive these awards.
From Kumasi, for Joy Business Report, Ohimin Teria reports.
Now, moves to merge ADB and NIB to create a new development bank may not happen before the close of the year. There's more in this report.
Well, this is because one of the banks the government is planning to put together, that's ADB, has indicated it is going ahead to raise its capital alone for the December 31 deadline. There are also rumors that NIB is having some challenges that would make it difficult for government to go ahead with the merger of the two institutions to create the National Development Bank. However, sources say if the merger would even come on, it could be in another form and not the current proposal of creating a National Development Bank. For now, we can say the watch the space when it comes to ADB and NIB issues and how these two banks would capitalize.
All right, so we'll be staying glued to this development and update you in our subsequent bulletins. Now, Trades Union Congress TUC says it is optimistic it will finalize negotiations on a severance package for staff of the 5 defunct banks very soon. The Congress has recently opened discussions with accounting firm KPMG, appointed to manage the 5 other banks that collapsed after UT and Capital banks. This follows the decision by the Bank of Ghana to revoke licenses of the 5 banks due to insolvency and operating irregularities. Joshua Ansah is Deputy General Secretary of the Trades Union Congress.
Really, fortunately or unfortunately, most of the banking workers are not unionized. But the work of a union is to protect the interest of workers from employment to non-employment. I think the TUC have actually taken on board this very issue. And in the banking sector, unlike the other sectors where they have their severance award package negotiated already in their collective agreements, in the banking sector, it's not like that. They have something that they call exit package. And I think we have gone far with that package discussion. We are only waiting for its implementation. I'm talking about the first 5. Then the additional ones that came on board, we have begun discussions. And you know, the industrial, how do you call it, UNICOF is leading in that discussions. And I hope that from where we have gotten to, there will be some positive signs out of our negotiations. But it all boils down to time.
Now, telecom operators could soon be paying taxes on revenues secured from mobile money transactions. This is what Joy Business has picked up from persons close to the revenue agencies. But what has influenced this move, despite an earlier promise not to go into this space? George Yafi tells us more in this report.
It is not clear what might have influenced this move of starting to tax fees charged by the telcos on mobile money transactions. We understand that the tax could be in the form of VAT on mobile money fees as well as revenue and on the service. We even understand there's already been a meeting with the telcos on this, with some being presented with the expected taxes that they have to pay before the end of this year. They've also been asked to even pay the taxes on previous revenue and from the mobile money business before the end of this year. This is because they did not charge the VAT on previous revenue and from the service. Figures from the Bank of Ghana have shown that as of June this year, deposits held on mobile money accounts reached over 2 billion Ghana cedis. For some, it is clear the revenue authorities might have their way in terms of taxing this service. But the question is, will the telcos end up passing on this charge to consumers, or they will absorb it?
It's live on the marketplace with me, Emmanuel Abuaji Wiafi. Now, the Made in Ghana Customer Satisfaction Survey, which was launched a couple of weeks ago, highlighted fresh evidence of the poor customer satisfaction that pertains in Ghana. The study also identified several implications and opportunities which could be harnessed to ensure that customer experiences in Ghana are improved. In the maiden edition, the telcos industry scored 4th below the retail, hospitality and online sectors. I've been joined in the studio now by Yvonne Ohui. She's the CEO of the Institute of Customer Service Professionals to give us more details about the other sectors and how they fared. Good afternoon, madam. Welcome to the marketplace.
Thank you so much.
All right, now, so tell us first the methodology which you adopted to use this survey.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I think without being too complex, I would tell you briefly what we did. So we used different methods to actually host the survey. So we went online using the various social media outlets that we have. We also had some intercepts, so we had people actually going on the ground and then trying to interview people who have already been into the businesses to do business and then find out what their experiences are. Our main areas were in Accra, we did Kumasi and Takoradi, but because it's an online survey, if you've experienced any good service in, say, for example, Tamale, you're still able to mention the name of the service provider and then write something about them. So, I mean, it's a Ghanaian index that we did.
Now, you did various sectors, hospitality, you know, and others.
Yes.
Now, could you give us the ranking, I mean, of the index? Who came first, apart from the telcos that we know came fourth?
Yes.
Which were the others?
Absolutely. So we had retail. Retail came up with 73.33. So they were first. Retail, we looked at the major retail outlets. We didn't want to choose individual small outlets because if you look at the Accra Mall, for example, it houses a lot of the retail shops. And so we looked at Accra Mall, Achimota Mall, Kumasi Mall. We looked at the malls in that way. Hospitality came second. Then you have the online businesses. Then the telcos, that was fourth. We have the financial institutions, healthcare, utilities, and then the public sector came last with a D ranking. So you find that the highest ranking was a B, which is the retail sector.
So what are the key indicators or drivers that you used with, for instance, the retail outlets?
Yes, so for all of the areas that, all of the different sectors that we looked at, we used 8 different matrices. So we looked at the look and feel. So for example, how does the customer perceive what they see and how they feel when they walk? Exactly. The actual edifice, the layout, lighting, even things as little as lighting, you know, the smell of the place, ventilation, do you have enough seating area? Do you have a pen for them to write? And then the actual people who work there, how are they dressed? So are they professional? Are they receptive? Then we look also at competence. So are they knowledgeable and skillful in the job that they're supposed to execute? Then professionalism. We looked at customer-centric innovation. So we're looking at companies that are actually thinking ahead of time and innovating things that, you know, enhance the customer experience. We looked at the complaints handling process as well. So these are the areas that we asked customers or consumers to judge.
Did it make room for some biases? Because, you know, in one way or the other, some people may perceive one, you know, retail outlets better than the others. I mean, what kind of, you know, space did you give for biases?
We didn't give any space, I have to be honest. What we did was that we know, you and I would both agree that you have certain, for example, retail outlets that would be more popular than others. And so, of course, we chose, every sector had a particular number. The retail sector had about 23 different companies that we looked at, or different malls that we looked at. Now, when you answer the questions against the matrix that we gave you, you're able to rank them. However, not every single company comes up in the ranking. So retail, for example, you had just about 7. The reason being that if somebody, for example, rates one of the malls, let's say only 3 people answer the question on their behalf, I think it's not weighty enough for us to come up and give you a general perception of what people think if only 3 people answer the question. So we made sure that it was really open. However, whoever had the most counts actually translates to the number of people that have probably walked through their shops as well.
All right, let's look at the financial sector. What did you take a look at?
So when you look at the financial sector, we did the same thing. What we want to do is make sure that there's a standard that every single sector had to, go through. Now, one interesting thing, we did something called the Net Promoter Score, which looks at the detractors, the passives, and the promoters. Basically, you have a number from 0 to 10, and if you answer between 0 to 6, those are your detractors. Anything 7 and 8 are your passives. And then 9 and 10 means they're extremely happy. Those are your promoters. You find that if you look at the financial sector, for example, their detractors were 30.6%. The passives was 42.5%, and the promoters was only 26.9. So
were you considering the bank and non-bank financial sectors?
Both banking and non-banking. So you had insurance companies, some microfinance. Yes.
All right.
So you find that in general, their net promoter score was actually in a negative. And it shouldn't happen like that, because anytime you have a negative NPS, it simply means that you have lesser people saying positive things about you as a company. But if you look at the net promoter score in general, you had only 3 different sectors that did or had positives, which was the retail, the hospitality, and the online businesses. They were the only people who had positives. So almost all of them had negative. And then the public sector, a very worrying trend. Their detractors.
What happened?
So you find that their detractors, they had 64.8% detractors. Only 11.2%. That's the lowest in promoters. Wow. So basically, just 11% will say anything positive about our public sector. And the passives are like your floating voters. They're neither here nor there. They only had 24%. So they had a minus 53.6.
And what happened in the hospitality sector?
Hospitality, again, the detractors were low because they did very well. So they had 24.3. Their passives were 34.5 and their promoters was 41.2. Again, they were in the positive. Their net promoter score was 16.9, which is good. Okay. So in all, I think some of the key things that came out were that if you look at the two that came at the top, which is the hospitality and then the retail, you find that they might be run by Ghanaians, but they have this foreign influence. And so they had a completely different way of doing things. And if you look at...
They had an edge.
Exactly. If you look at the hotels that we even used in the hospitality, almost all of them are being run by foreigners now. And so there's definitely... there's definitely a reaction. You know, you can tell that whoever is running that place has something to do with the perception that we now have as customers. And then when you look at the bottom two sectors, which is the utilities and then the public sector, again, those are run solely by probably government and by us. And so I'm not saying that we can't do it right, but then you are, from what we've gathered, it looks like. Then
will it not be considered as the flaw, the biases that I was talking about, because these are being operated by foreigners and it's perceived that foreign operators do better?
Yes, it was a perception until now. Now we actually have the facts. That's what people used to say.
All right, quickly, let's look at the opportunities that were unearthed by this study. What and what do you have?
I think with customer service, there's always an opportunity. If you look at currently our economic activities, apart from agriculture and manufacturing, 54.1% goes into services. And so we have this wide range. I mean, when it's bad, like they say, the only place you can go is up when you're down. Sure. So if our customer service as a country is a grade C, which was 63.9%, that's what we scored as a country, there's a lot more we can do, considering the fact that we have a lot of economic activities within the services area. So now is the time to look at the question now is, what can we do? Because I think we all agree that customer service in Ghana is poor. We all agree that it's something we need to look at. We all agree that we're behind if we compare ourselves to these partners that we're hoping to have, you know, and, you know, being, you know, the Ghana without aid. There's a certain standard we have to be at a certain place to be able to say that. So the opportunities are there, but I feel that it's gone beyond business discussion. It's now supposed to be a boardroom discussion. That's what customer service is supposed to do. It's no more the HR discussion where they're thinking about who to come and train. Boardrooms have to discuss that. And then governmental institutions have to sit down and look, because they are at the bottom. So what are they doing? Now we have the public sector reform. And I know that with the public sector reform, they have a lot of plans to revamp the public sector and change the face. So we're hoping that going forward, they would be able to do that.
All right, so when is the next edition of the survey going to be held?
So this is going to be held every year in November. However, we're bringing out quarterly. So we're trying to bring out quarterly sectors, surveys for the different sectors. So just to tickle you a bit, we're looking now at the call centers, and then we will look at regulators as well.
Many thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Yvonne Ohui is the CEO of the Institute of Customer Service Professionals. She's been talking about the maiden edition of the Ghana Customer Satisfaction Survey, which was launched a couple of weeks ago. It's on the marketplace. Now, over 5,000 inhabitants of Bankata, Krishan, and Sansure, all oil and gas host communities in the Western region, have benefited from international oil company ENI's water project, providing potable water for the three communities. The water plant is powered by solar energy and is connected to the national grid to serve as backup power source. It also produces a yield of about 150 litres per minute. There's more in this report.
The decision to build this water system is based on a needs assessment carried out to understand what interventions of the offshore Keep 3 Points projects could make in order to improve the standard of living, as the lack of good potable water was realized as a major concern for community members. Most of these communities were previously using water from hand-dug wells from domestic activities, including cooking. Former Minister of Energy, Emmanuel Amakufibua, touted ENI's commitment to the development of its host communities.
ENI and how ENI has been so focused on helping its communities. And I was very privileged as an energy minister and started from day one and worked here with ENI And what surprised me about ENI's entry into our communities was their very early commitment, even when they had not even started anything, that we are going to focus on health and transform the health system of all these communities. And so today, ENI has not only helped us with health, but they've also come to the next step saying that health and water are just key to life.
The Sanzule Water Project is a pilot community water project implemented in Sanzule, Krisan and Bakanta in order to have an instant impact on community members. The water plant is powered by solar energy and is connected to the national grid to serve as a backup power source. The source of water is groundwater, which produces about 150 liters per minute. Giancarlo Riui is managing director of ENI Ghana. The Sanzule Krisan Bakantas water project consists of one water plant which treats underground in accordance with the World Health Organization standards.
The initiative coming from the people. It's coming from the needs of the community, and the decision to do water project is not coming from Accra or from headquarters. It's really coming from the need of the people of the community that have expressed the sort of priority. Water was the first. So to have safe and potable water, it is a basic need. It was the first request, and we did. Definitely, we should expect continuing the investment in the local communities and the sustainability project. You may know that we are investing in what we call livelihood restoration plan, which involves almost 2,000 people. And it is a project that is designed to create skills, job creation, independence of the people, and diversification from the oil and gas. That's what the people should expect. To the water project, yes, you just double check, is not a big amount. It's below the $200,000. It's not huge, but the impact it will be huge.
And that will be it for the marketplace today. Of course, we'll be bringing you updates on the men's gold saga in our subsequent bulletins, hopefully on Business Live. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. You have a good afternoon.